Welcome to another episode of the Virginia Investor Podcast. Today's guest has a unique and challenging life of a first responder while growing a rental portfolio. I am excited to hear his journey. Kyle Murphy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I know we've been trying to get this together for like a few months now.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, in between like your dumpster company and your work with the fire department and everything else, it's been hard getting you, but I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah, me too. Glad to be here.
All right, so let's do what we do on most episodes. I want to learn about you, not just as an investor, but like what your background is, what your mindset is, and how you became the person that you are today. Where were you born? What was childhood like growing up?
I was born here in Richmond.
Nice, awesome.
And then I grew up in New Kent.
Okay.
You know, the sticks, nice and slow. Yeah, grew up with horses, on the horse scene, did ropings, rodeos, and that was my life.
What did your parents do for a living?
My mom worked at Anthem Blue Cross.
Okay.
And my dad worked at Georgia Pacific.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just about my whole life for both of them.
Yeah, and then they just came home and like, did you guys live on a farm, or
Yeah.
did you just work on a farm, or what?
No, so we started out with 5 acres.
Okay.
My mom's parents were into horses,
Okay.
horse trading. My grandparents over there, and then my father's parents. I don't think they had too much to do with horses, but you know, my dad went to war, came back, got with my mom, and then they settled down in Charles City.
Okay.
And they had a little farm out there, and then they moved to New Kent when they started having my brother and sister.
Interesting.
And it was a little 5 acres, and then we ended up moving to a different part of New Kent with 20 acres. You know, that was where my memory started kicking in.
Got
I
it.
started growing up more.
Sweet. Yeah, it sounds like a good childhood out in the sticks
Oh, man.
on a farm with horses.
You know, it sucked back then,
Yeah.
but looking back, man, I wish I could go back
Yeah.
and relive it again.
Yeah.
You know, we've got land now, and, you know, we sit outside. Christina and I sit outside, and we'll just watch the sunset.
Yeah.
And it's so cool just to take it in. And I just told somebody not even a week ago how much it makes me appreciate what I had growing up.
Right.
And it also makes me miss what I missed growing up
Yeah.
to take a moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's hard to recognize that, especially as a kid, and
Yeah.
and you always want something else. But man, yeah, we don't have a little bit of land, but we got plenty of space around us. Like, we're not in a congested neighborhood anymore, and that, like, it just makes the world a difference. We moved from Lakeside, where we had like the 0.2 acre lots.
Yeah.
You know, the houses are stacked.
Yeah.
But you know, growing up, I was always in like the suburban environment, not on a farm. But now I get to go home after like trying to build a business and manage a team and do all this stuff, and just sit and like breathe in some
Yeah.
fresh air and like look out at the sunset and
Yeah.
stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. You know, we'd look out. Our house faces west,
Mm-hmm.
and across from us is a massive farm. And we sit there's probably about 6 acres of farm, you know, of our land that's unclear or that's cleared. And then across from us is just a big farm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say as far as you can see, but,
Yeah.
you know, a good ways.
Yeah.
And the sunsets, like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's cool to come home with all the hustle and bustle of
Right.
everything we do every day.
Yeah.
And just sit down
Yeah.
and chill out.
So you have 2 siblings?
Yeah.
Are
my
you
brother.
the youngest? Or?
I am.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I can picture you being the youngest, the baby of the family.
The way I am now, I can't picture it. But, you know, I know of the stories that they tell that, you know, I was definitely the youngest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
got
awesome.
away with a whole lot more.
Yeah,
But I think I also walked the line a whole lot more.
yeah.
You know, or stepped over the line a whole lot more.
Did you play sports growing up, or were you into grades? Like, what kind of student were
Definitely
you?
not into grades. I played sports to the point where my parents wanted me to try out everything.
Yeah,
And then, you know, I tried the horse thing, and I stuck with that.
yeah,
Mainly because my brother and sister, my parents, they all were in horses. You know, the football, I did flag football, pee-wee or whatever the next level is.
Mm-hmm.
I did baseball, like t-ball in one season, a little, whatever, baseball
Yeah.
as a kid.
yeah.
And then I just did horses the rest of the time growing up.
Interesting.
You know, it was in my family. It's what they did. So obviously I just kind of leaned towards it, enjoyed it. If you can say it's enjoyment.
Right.
You know, at 10 years old, you're just doing what you do, you know.
Right,
It's hard to not enjoy things when you're ingrained in it, you know.
right.
So
You had mentioned that in your early teenage years, you had a brush up against the law.
yeah, so that's how I started in the fire department.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it changed your life. I mean, because now as
Yeah.
involved as you are, if
Yeah.
that's what got you into it, that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, I'm curious. You can go into as much detail as you want or not want, but like that shift at that age is pretty interesting. Like that drastically changed the course of your life. What to walk us through maybe like your mindset of what was going on at that time?
Yeah, no, I was, I think 12, 13 years old and just looking to have a good time, going to hang out with my friends. My sister was away, and I would say I borrowed her truck. Some people would say I stole it. Went up and down the road and drove to my friend's house a couple times. And it stopped when I ran a stop sign and hit a car.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Man, I was hoping maybe you said like wall or something like that.
Would have been better off if I'd hit a tree or a ditch or something.
Yeah.
Not knowing what I know now, I ran a stop sign. I pulled out in front of him. He hit me, and then he went on to hit a tree. They had to cut him out of the car. He was hurt pretty bad.
Wow.
I didn't stick around for any of that. I drove home, which
Wow.
is a big no-no.
Yeah.
Luckily, there was somebody who watched me and was able to trace, the fluid leaking out of the vehicle as I backed all the way down the road into my driveway.
Right.
And then went inside, and when he pulled into my driveway, I tried walking out like nothing happened.
Right.
But, the wreck truck there smoking and
Right.
everything kind of gave it away. So he took me back up there. They got me checked out. The rest of that day is a blur. The rest of the couple months after that was a blur.
Right.
And then, court, I feel it worked out great for me, but I feel like it wasn't fair to me because this other guy got hurt pretty bad. I didn't. I always wanted to be a fireman since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And so my parents talked to the lawyer, and they kind of leveraged that with the situation. They threw me in the jail for one day, just in like a holding cell to kind of scare me.
Right.
And it did. I've never peed and slept within that close proximity before on concrete. It was really not a thing I want to do again.
As a 12-year-old, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. But they leveraged that with the attorney and the lawyer and the judge. And so that got me into community service, which at the end of the day was, kind of gave me what I wanted to do at the firehouse.
Why did you always want to be a fire? Just because, I mean, kids love firefighters and policemen. Like, was it one of those things? Did you have someone in your family or any other influence that made you want to be a firefighter?
Yeah, my uncle was a fireman.
Okay.
But my family, that part of my family, my extended family, we're not as close. I'd see them Thanksgiving and I'd see them Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up, I would go down and spend a week with my cousins in Williamsburg, because
Right.
it's so far away. There's no excuse as to why we didn't talk that much other than
Right.
we were really busy. But he was a fireman, and we had a neighbor a couple doors down growing up that was a fireman, a volunteer fireman.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it just like really stuck with me. And
Yeah.
when a 5-year-old looks at a fire truck and thinks it's really cool,
Yeah.
I still look at a fire truck and think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started.
It's interesting you point that out. We were just away on vacation last week, and my son walked out. He's 5 years old. Walked out of the front of the house. A fire truck was driving by, face lit up, and he was like, "Dad, look!" And he pointed and he jumped and waved. And of course, like the nice fireman inside, honked the horn a couple times. And he was just the rest of the day was talking about it. It's just unbelievable how much that meant to him. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, and that's really cool because when you are in the fire truck and it's 2:00 in the morning, you forget all that stuff.
Yeah.
When it's 2:00 in the morning and you're on your 15th run and you got to go pick somebody out of the bed that's pooped or peed on themselves, it's so easy to forget, that I was that 5-year-old,
Right.
and that a lot of the guys I work with was that 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And so the hardest thing for me in my position right now, and I talk about it so regularly with my guys, is that 5-year-old.
Yeah.
When they go to Wawa, the 5-year-old sees us.
Yep.
So, perception's reality for that kid.
Mm-hmm.
So if he sees us ignore him, he's going to grow up with that mentality and that thought. But if he sees us honk the horn, if he sees us give him 5, it's super cool because like that has bled over into these guys.
Right.
And now I see them going out and, taking extra time. I don't think it's got anything to do with me. It's just the caliber of people that they work with. But it's awesome that I work with. It's awesome that, we're not in an office We're not just crunching numbers. We're not, painting walls or putting drywall up. We can literally see the impacts of people's lives for the rest of their life.
Right.
So it's a cool little gig.
Yeah,
Those
absolutely.
5-year-olds definitely, every day that it brings it full circle.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective to share because, I mean, again, just randomly I saw that exact same thing just days ago. Like,
Yeah.
Not even thinking about this interview or anything. It's like that is very common. Like the kids go nuts when they see a fire truck, and I think it's awesome because there could be way worse things to go nuts about. And,
Yeah,
and
it
for
could be a
them
cop
to
car.
yeah. I was going to say law enforcement or firefighters, but yeah. So here you are, 12, where there are no consequences for anything in life. At in your teens, you just do so much stuff that just you never think that there's actual consequences in the world, and here you are, and you have to face actual consequences. But it pushes you to the fire department, which again, like you hear about the people who make mistakes and then go into the military and they're in there for 20, 30 years and just crush it, like do really well. This pushes you towards the fire department, which I think is awesome. It's something you've always wanted to do, and it gives you an opportunity to get in there early. I assume, like, as a 13-year-old-ish in the fire department, like, that's got to be kind of crazy. Like, what was that first experience like?
It was actually weird because we first started my community service on a snowstorm. And I think it was like 200 hours of community service I had to do. And it was at 13, my birthday's in May. That's when you turn 14, you could actually join the fire department.
Okay.
Couldn't do much, but it was like my shoe to get into the door. It was my foot to get in the door. And so I went there on a snowstorm, and the guys, whoever it was, I had to introduce myself, which was one of the most intimidating things I've ever done.
Right.
And, this 13-year-old comes in, got in trouble, has community service paperwork.
Did you know anyone there, or did anyone give him a heads up, like, hey, this is a good kid, like, there's connections or relationships there, or were you walking in as, like, they're thinking that there's something, like, someone who causes problems that needs to get corrected?
My neighbor, the fireman, the volunteer fireman, I knew him, but I knew of him. We didn't hang out a whole lot. Him and his son, we were the same age, so we hung out a little bit. So I knew him, and that was pretty much it at the time, yeah.
So you're walking in as this kid who needs to be somewhat, like, needs some correction, needs some discipline in their mind, and you just walk in as a 13-year-old and have to introduce yourself and get to know these grown men and women.
Yeah, and super intimidating. Yeah, at 13, and it was just super intimidating, very uncomfortable.
What kind of work did you do? Would it like cleaning stuff and just putting supplies away?
I cleaned the fire trucks until the paint fell off of it. I swept the floor. I washed trucks. I washed the underside of trucks. Right. Anything that they wanted me to do. And the good part is that these guys walked on water to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And whatever they wanted, I was like, roger that. I'll do it. And I'll do it twice.
Yeah.
That's the good part. But the bad part is, like, this is supposed to be a punishment. Mm-hmm. It worked out great for me. But as an adult looking back at it now, I'm like, if it's somebody that doesn't have my mentality, then they wouldn't have gotten punished. They would have just been, all right, we'll do it and we'll enjoy it. So now I can go out and take 2 cars and wreck them.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, I'll look at it a little differently because you had some level of discipline and some level of purpose to where you agreed to do the work that they told you to do. Yeah. Whereas if it really was some juvenile delinquent or whatever the term is like someone who really just has trouble with authority or won't listen or whatever, they're not going to clean the truck.
Right.
And they're going to hate it, right? Yeah. And they're not going to follow orders. And then there's going to be repercussions from that. They're going to get booted out of that department and put some, at a dump somewhere, doing work, cutting grass and doing, until they get whatever serve their time. And so it probably had a lot to do with you actually being like, you made a bad decision as a 12-year-old, but you're now in a position to, like, maybe it didn't really feel like punishment for you, but it's because you weren't a totally jacked up, screwed up kid. Yeah. Like you had some purpose and had some discipline and were ready to follow some orders. And I mean, that's kind of the purpose of the program, I would assume.
Yeah, it worked out.
You were there for a while. Like, you were there beyond your service time, right?
Yeah.
Like, what, like, I guess it was everything that it lived up to. I mean, if these guys walk on water, they're telling you what to do. You're doing everything that they tell you to do, and you're doing it as best you can. That's got to be a great experience for you, because then you're going to school. I guess you're going to school and then spending some time at the Firehouse, or what? Like, what does that look like as a kid, as a teenager?
I mean, once I got in and I cleared, my hours were done. I mean, it was so fun for me to do this punishment that I didn't write all my hours down. I remember not recording all my hours so I could go back.
Yeah.
It was just cool to be around these people.
Yeah.
And, hearing them cutting up, seeing them cutting up, and then being, on my own in a sense. Whereas before, I had my parents around, or my family was always around. I was always supervised by somebody. Mm-hmm. I'm still being supervised, but these other guys who are thinking like a kid like I am, and they're, throwing eggs at each other, and they're, dumping water all over people, and, just joking around constantly. And, on the volunteer training nights, it was strict business.
Yeah.
And it was, this is the way we do things. If I got out of line, this was, you will not do this. You will do this. Once we finished all of my community service hours, I was able to finally join and become a member at 14.
Right.
And there is no difference between community service and being a volunteer member at 14 years old.
Right.
You do the same stuff. And except you just got your name on a roster. I got the feeling like I fit in now. I'm one of them. And at 16 was when you could start going to like state classes, and you could start going on fire calls, riding fire trucks because of insurance purposes.
Right.
And so 16 was like, I got to get to 16.
Yeah.
Like, let me figure out how I can lie about my birthday and get me to 16. And the guys would they would walk the line with me. Some of them would take me on calls in their cars, or they'd let me do some things that probably should not have been done by a 14 or 15-year-old,
Right.
just because of the way I washed the fire truck and the way that I did, whatever they asked.
Yeah.
So they kind of knew that I wasn't just one of those guys,
Yep.
When I went to school, all I could think about was that night going to the Firehouse.
Yeah.
We lived, I'd say a half mile from the Firehouse. So I would ride my bike to the Firehouse.
Yeah.
And then, my mom would call, dad call, come home for dinner. I'd go home, come back, do my homework at the Firehouse. Even though I couldn't do anything but wash trucks, that's all I wanted to do.
Right.
Was just sit in the fire department. And anytime they had drills, I got to dress out and do whatever drills that they were doing and learn. And, it was super, super cool.
Yeah.
Definitely shaped what I'm doing today.
What kind of, I know they joke around a lot, but they obviously, they're professionals, right? And they take their job very seriously, given the consequences of not doing that in that industry. What sort of discipline did you pick up as a kid? Like, were you seeing them work out? Were you seeing them like what kind of lessons were you learning as a teenager at those young years, like hanging out with those guys?
So it definitely wasn't a workout thing. It wasn't that type of environment, but it was we're going to joke, we're going to have fun, and then when it's time to work, we're going to work.
Switched on.
Yeah. And what's really cool was we're going to joke, we're going to have fun, and when you screw up, you're going to get dealt with
Right.
quickly, effectively, and then it's water under the bridge.
Right.
Like, we're going to go back to joking and messing up. I can remember my mom frustrated me one day on the phone, and I don't know if it was homework or what, but I hung up the phone and I said something snappy, and then hung up the phone like a 15 or 16-year-old kid would do. And this guy said, "Who was that?" I said, "It was my mom." This is before cell phones. This was cord phone. He said, "If I ever hear you talk to your mom or your dad again like that, you will never come back here." And like, I'm 43 years old right now, and I still see his face, I still hear that voice.
That's awesome.
And I still get chills just like I did that day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. People will have sports teams. They might play sports growing up. And yes, there's some accountability and you can make mistakes and you're a part of a team and stuff, but you're surrounded by like professionals, adults that in a very serious, and obviously we're having fun, but like a high consequence, high risk environment with what they do with their work. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the accountability purpose of like understanding what happens when you make mistakes or don't do what you're supposed to do is off the charts.
Yeah.
And then you get to kind of see that from a young age of how seriously people will take that, what accountability looks like. But then also like, we got to make decisions. We're going to make mistakes. Like things are going to happen.
Yeah.
No one's perfect, so it's good. But
Yeah.
like you're going to get dealt with, and then we're good to go, right? Let's go back to being a family or
Yeah.
a brotherhood, whatever you want to call it. I couldn't imagine so like. I spent a number of years in my adult life hanging around a lot of military people in different groups within the military service, and that taught me an insane amount about teamwork, communication, leadership, how to work as a team, an elite team, and things like that. I couldn't imagine. I mean, that's a similar environment as far as teamwork, leadership, communication in a firehouse from the age of 13 on.
Yeah.
Is crazy. Like I couldn't imagine being brought up in that. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or at least I think it would be awesome.
Yeah. Looking back at what we know, I don't think we fully understand and grasp the opportunities that sets us up for. Because I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until, I don't know, probably 15 or so years that I was like, the way that things worked out really shaped the way that I am, which is super cool because it's reflected in both of my kids too.
Right.
You know, one of them is in the military now. The other one is doing her own thing, but super structured.
Yeah.
She's pregnant, so she's not as structured now, but you know, it's super cool to see like the way that I grew up and my wife, the way that we grew up. You know, you can look at my kids and clearly tell that there's some structure there that isn't from somebody's parents that aren't doing a service like that.
Yeah, I could see that. You turned 16, you're still with the Firehouse.
Yeah.
You get to go on calls, I guess, at this point. What is that like? Because now it's not all just fun and chores and stuff like that. I mean, you're seeing some wild stuff.
Best time of my life. Best time of my life.
What is it like?
It is
Just an absolute rush and then actually getting the job done with the team?
So I went from watching the guys leave on the fire trucks, listening to the radios and everything, hitting the button to put the doors back down, hitting the button to open the doors up so they can come back, and then smelling, you know, the smoke and washing the hose and listening to their stories. I went from like just listening and being like like I was reading a book or watching TV to being in it.
Right.
And it was like, oh, this is awesome. This is cool.
I mean, that's what, like 4 years of like waiting to go on a call. What was you remember what your first call was?
Yeah, it was a car fire.
Really?
Yeah. It's weird because I remember that, but I don't even remember like my first girlfriend.
Yeah.
But I remember, you know, it was a car fire on the interstate, and it was out, so it was nothing exciting about it at all.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I remember the sound going down to down the interstate, the route that we took, everything about it. I remember it.
Yeah.
It was it was like the coolest thing.
Yeah. Did it stay that way? I mean, like the first few years, I mean, you're still in the fire department now, so I assume like that passion never died out. But I can't imagine what first responders see. Like I look at this. My sister's a nurse in the emergency department in one of the local hospitals, and just hearing some of the stuff that she sees is insane.
Yeah.
So and it's crazy because like we might see some crazy stuff on TV. That stuff really exists in real life, and I look at it. My perspective is that we have first responders that shield us from having to see any of this stuff in our normal life.
Yeah.
Like they are the shield between my perspective, my kids' perspective, my wife's perspective, my team's perspective of all the crazy stuff that happens in this world. They see it, they put out that fire, figuratively speaking, like whether it be law enforcement or firefighters or whatever, or EMT, like they handle all this crazy stuff before it gets widespread and gets to the community, so that we never see about it or hear about it other than the aftermath on the news, right? Yeah. But they are seeing all of this. And even just in hearing like what my sister sees at the hospital or other first responders I've talked to, like there's insane amounts of just crazy stuff happening every single day in our community that we just never know about. Now you're 16 and you're seeing some of this stuff, I assume.
Yeah.
What does that play a toll on you mentally, or are you just like, this is what I'm made to do, like it's good to go?
Honestly, it never crossed my mind. it plays more of a mental toll at certain periods of time in my mind now than it ever has before.
Because you have a family now, and you like, do you relate it or what?
No, I mean, you know, with the whole PTSD and all that kind of stuff, like I see things now just as vivid as I did, you know, back then. You know, we ran a car wrapped around a tree on the side of 64, and it killed 2 people. They were both boyfriend and girlfriend. They were coming back from a college in Hampton Roads area. I can't remember what it's called. But when they wrecked, they slid off the road and then hit a tree sideways. The guy was dead in the car. You know, we knew that. The girl was still breathing, so we had to pull her out and work her. The most unfortunate part about that was her parents saw the entire thing happen saw everything that we did. And, you know, then it didn't bother me. But now, as a parent of that, you know, she is now my daughter's age.
Right.
Or my daughter's now her age.
Right.
Now, I think more about that.
Yeah.
And, like, what did they see and what did they see in every day? Because, you know, they had to live it in the moment. I was just doing what I wanted to do. It was totally different perception.
Right.
We were looking at the same thing, but through 2 very, very different lenses. And, you know, when we were done with that call, we packed up.
It's interesting.
Went home.
Yeah. I guess there is a level of detachment when you're doing the job.
Yeah.
And then afterward, you actually reflect on what it really means. Like whether it be a year later or 10 years later, you reflect on what that really was and like what really happened.
First responder divorce rate is super, super high. And suicide rate now is super, super, super high. It's crazy. And it's because, you know, you detach from stuff. And, you know, the suicide rate's a little bit different, or the suicide thing is a little bit different in my opinion, but the divorce rate I think is, you know, I lived it. I went through it. We got divorced because I detached like emotionally and mentally from my family. And for years, you know, my son would get hurt and I'd be like, you're not hurt. I know what hurt is. And, you know, you get up and let's go. You know, Christina would be like, oh my gosh, you know, example, we had some friends over, had 4-wheelers, and we went riding around 4-wheelers. She was like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts really bad. I'm like, I hear this all the time. Come on, let's go. And made her go through riding 4-wheelers down through mud, bumpy and everything. Finally, after a day or 2, we had to take her to the hospital for like some significant issues. And I was like, the whole time, I'm like, get over it. Yeah. Come on, let's go. You know, my son broke his arm, and there was no sympathy for when he broke his arm. I was like, all right, you know, just straight to, this is what we got to do.
Right.
And, you know, stop, don't cry. He didn't cry anyways, but it was like, you'll be fine. Let's fix this. You know, my daughter would get hurt, like fall off a horse, get up, let's go.
Right.
Let's go on to the next thing. That's how I ran my life, and I ran my marriage into the ground. You know, when Christina was like, I want to go to dinner, or I want to do this. No, I don't want to do any of that.
Right.
Or if we did it, I was so checked out.
For sure.
You know, going to work for 72 hours at a time, a lot of times, and then coming home and just being, you know, drained, but don't know that I'm drained.
Right.
You know, so it definitely took a huge toll on our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and
I could imagine what you think is important is different than what other people think is important.
Yeah.
Like what you think matters is way different than what other people think matters.
We see that all the time. Like we pull up to a house on fire, and you know, they tell us, or we pull up to an accident, whatever the call we pull up to, you know, and they tell us the most insignificant thing. Like you got a big row of townhouses burning, and somebody's like, you know, the bush is going to catch on fire.
Right.
Get out of here. Really? So, but, you know, I've learned it's important to them at the moment. For whatever reason, that's the way they help, or that's important for them, whatever. To the ones who do it every day, it's like, get out of the way, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have not experienced that, but I could see how that would play a role in the relationship and family and stuff like that. I mean, especially with all that you're seeing and all you're going through and the work that you're putting in and what your team is seeing and what they're dealing with. Because as you're, you had mentioned that like you go to the city department at 19.
So I got hired. I came to the city and worked for Richmond Ambulance for a while.
Okay.
And that going from New Kent, where lots of fields, country roads, going to work for Richmond, extremely different.
Yeah,
Huge culture shock.
What time frame is this roughly?
This was
like early 2000s or
2001, 2002.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So now you're in the city.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different culture shock. Going on a lot more calls or just different types of calls?
A lot more calls.
Yeah, a lot more.
A lot more calls. Very different types of calls. In the country, you learn most of the calls that you go on medical wise, they are going to be, if they're calling 911 for a reason, it's a legit reason.
Right.
Because either they'll go to the barn and they'll get their own suture kit and medicine kit and heal themselves, or they'll put their own house fires out with a garden hose. In the city, it's very different. There's a lot more BS, but there's also a lot more opportunity for different types of calls, shooting, stabbings. You didn't get that, in the field. So very, very different. A lot more calls, very different calls.
Did you start entering into leadership positions in the city, or was it after that, after some more experience?
No. So I went there to get experience on the EMS side because I saw and I knew and I heard talking to all these other career firemen that you weren't going to get hired unless you were an EMT, and you weren't going to get hired unless you had EMS experience, because that was kind of the transition time when the fire departments around here were really starting to integrate with EMS. Henrico had just started their ambulances like 2 or 3 years before, and Richmond still didn't do. I mean, they still don't integrate. So I knew that I needed to go there to get some experience and to get away from the cornfields and to learn more about the first responder experience. And so I did, and it worked out.
Yeah. Because you got promoted, you went to lieutenant, right? Is that the next?
No, so I stayed in the city working, again, for just the ambulance. I didn't do anything with the fire trucks here. It was way too hard to get hired here. I can remember sitting at the Arthur Ashe Center with, 1,000 people. And back then, they didn't post jobs on Facebook.
Yeah.
You had to look in the paper every Sunday, and they would do the classifieds, and you'd find the classifieds, and they would post them at the Firehouse. All these places are hiring. They'd post a paper, and they'd circle it. And so I remember sitting there with, a couple thousand applicants just for like 30 positions.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Standing outside the Arthur Ashe Center for Richmond, and, these school cafeterias for Henrico and Chesterfield. And, I tested for Colonial Heights, Virginia Beach, some places in North Carolina, all the way up to Maryland. And the idea was, and still is by a lot of the guys, is just apply anywhere you want, anywhere you can, and then you'll get picked up somewhere, and then you can apply to kind of where you want to go.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and I got hired in Stafford. It was mostly EMS, but there was we were allowed to ride on fire trucks, ish. It was mostly volunteers who did the fire trucks, and then there was a handful of volunteers who did EMS, but they couldn't keep up with the demand of the system, so the county had to hire career people to run ambulances. And then we did some fire work there, and then the department just kept growing and growing. So I stayed there, and I figured, I'll see what's around here. I'll see what's up. And then I got assigned to the first, there's only one person per shift that would staff a fire truck, and I was assigned to that position. So my job was basically just to drive the fire truck. The volunteers would ride it. I would drive it. that turned into our first staffed fire truck in the county, and I got promoted to lieutenant and selected for that position. So that was probably 2009, 2010.
Got it.
And then it was off to the races then.
At that point, like you're starting to really make a career out of this.
Yeah.
Like you're really getting into it more as a professional and less as like a volunteer,
Yeah.
I guess. And then you and Christina are together at this point. When you had mentioned earlier that like obviously you started to see complications and you guys eventually had got divorced. Did I assume those complications may have showed up in work, or maybe they were aligned with work? Like did that show up in your professional career at all, or were things pretty good on that side of things?
No, I made sure that my professional career was locked in.
Yeah, you just which all lines up, right? It all makes sense. So when you and Christina separate, and then I guess interesting story, like it's not for very long, and you guys got back together like a year later. But what was it kind of like being able to talk through stuff with her, or her being able to get some stuff out of you and help you kind of come to?
When we got to fighting real bad, and we'd always told each other we didn't want to fight in front of the kids, and we would never stay together for the kids, because we knew that they would see it. They would see through the smoke and mirrors, and so we got to fighting real bad. I wouldn't, emotionally wouldn't talk and all that kind of stuff. Still don't do a really good job at it. It got really, really bad. We went and visited a counselor. And spent a lot of time with her, and then finally it was we gotta call it. Like, it's not good for kids, it's not good for us. I never did really allow it to inject or interfere with the fire department, because that was the priority.
Right.
Like, nothing else mattered, and to me nothing else mattered, because that was my career, that was paying for whatever. Like, right. If you don't have a job, then how are you going to afford food and all that? So, I missed all these signs, and that she was telling me, the counselor was telling me, and things just kept going downhill. So, yeah, it was a crazy time.
How did you recognize that you missed those signs versus it being everyone else's fault?
It was never everyone else's fault. It was hers. I missed, in my perspective, like, right. not saying fact, but I recognized it when my counselor sent me to a different counselor that dealt with first responders.
Interesting.
And I don't remember all the details. But it was put into perspective to me. Like, my job is basically to fix things. People don't call me to come out and look at their house and tell them how nice their wall is. They call me to look at their house and ask, can you put the fire out, or can you fix my wife is dead on the floor. So I grew up, with the mentality of fixing everything. And when Christina would have these issues and I couldn't fix them, it was just, it either wasn't an issue to me, or it wasn't important to me, or, if she wanted me to fix something, if she was telling me a problem, women apparently like to just talk and be listened to. I would try to fix whatever the issue was. And I distinctly remember her saying, like, I don't want you to fix everything. Just listen. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I don't have those wires connected. And this guy, was really able to break it down and be like, you are just like all the rest of them. You need to stop. And I don't remember all the details, because that whole, a lot of that time period in my life is a blur. Yeah. Masked by a lot of cheap bourbon and beer. Right. But yeah, I mean, he was really able to break it down, and that coupled with a different part of my job, being assigned to a different area where I'm not doing all of the fixing and kind of more as a chief doing a lot of the administrative stuff, which is really why we ended up back together, I think. Just changed my processing, my thought processes, and allowed us to kind of recalibrate.
Yeah, which is freaking awesome because I've only known you with her.
Yeah.
And she's awesome.
Yeah.
And it seems like you guys, obviously I don't see like the inside of your inner lives or anything, but you guys seem awesome together. Yeah. But so throughout your firefighting career to this point, what was your view on financial independence or freedom or investing or anything? Have you been opened up to this, or were you just like, let's just make enough money to pay the bills? Like
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
We lived, when my daughter was born, we were on one of the government assistance things. We lived in a basement of a friend's house, paying like $200 or $300 a month on the months when we could afford it. I was making $7.26.
Wow.
Working for the city of Richmond.
Yeah.
And then I went up there and I was making like $30,000 a year.
Yeah. And you're in your 20s, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd never heard much about the flipping houses, never paid much attention to it. But the weird thing is my brother was doing it this whole time.
He didn't tell you.
Building houses. And, he's really passive.
Right.
And so he's not going to push his thoughts. He's not going to push anything on anybody. And what got me into this was back up. When we got back together, Christine and I got back together, we had a friend who was going through a rough time. She was about to get kicked out of her house. And I was like, look, we're getting back together. Why don't we move in together? And then we'll just rent her this house until we, get on our feet, get our stuff situated, gets her out of the position she's in. So I think our mortgage was like $900, and I rented it to her for $1,000. I knew nothing about rental properties, cash flow, nothing.
Yeah.
Just, it was a favor. And about 3 or 4 years goes by, 5 years goes by. And I'm like, I want to sell that house because I want to take some money and do something else with it. Something fun, nothing investing wise. I wasn't there.
Right.
So I called my brother and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. He's like, why would you do that? I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, actually, he said, if you're going to sell it on terms. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you sell it and you do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, that's dumb. He said, well, look at it in 10 years and it's all this.
Right.
I was like, what the heck? And
it's a whole different way of thinking.
Yeah, it was a light bulb. I was on my back deck on my phone looking at my yard. It was one of those moments, like my arm, hair. It was one of those moments. It was like an aha moment. He was like, yeah, don't sell it. Rent it to her or finance her, down payment, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, where have I been? And so that got me into a path. Ordered a couple books.
Do you remember what those were?
Well, one of them was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't remember a lot of the other ones, but started listening to podcasts. The Green.
The Bigger Pockets.
Those.
Brandon Turner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Started listening to those, and then that got me just going down a rabbit hole.
Of course, yeah.
And much like the fire department, when I dive into something, I don't want to do it on a small scale. Like if I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to lose everything or I'm going to win. And I like to invest as much as I can, time and energy into it to set it up to where if I die tomorrow, it's going to run.
Right.
And one of the common themes of when I was running the training division at the Firehouse was if I get hit by a truck tonight, you guys have got to keep this program going or whatever it is. So whatever we make, we have to document processes and policies. That way somebody can come in tomorrow and pick it up and go on. And so when I build something out like that, that's what I do. And
Right.
I want to be able to dive into it and understand all of it. And so after that conversation with my brother, I'm like, I'm missing something here. And so I absorbed myself with Bigger Pockets, all these different podcasts, Pace More, all these, everything. And about that time, I was transferred. COVID was hitting, or no, it hadn't hit. I was on my way out of the training division, which is a 40-hour work week position, and going back to the field. So I knew that I was getting ready to come up with all kinds of extra time, because now I'm working back on shift work, a couple days off a week, and I was like, this is it. And I had always told Christina before, once we started figuring out about houses and it got big on HGTV, I was like, I want to flip a house or two. I want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
So there was this little inkling somewhere out there. But then I spent all this time preparing for it. Once I got back on shift work was right as COVID hit. So they shut down the training division along with the rest of the world like February of 2020. And then they moved us into like supporting all the COVID operations and EOC and all that kind of stuff. And I told my boss, I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like when this whole thing flows through, I need to get out. So they moved me. We swapped with a good buddy of mine. We swapped. I took his position in the field, and he came in to run the training division. And I told Christina, I was like, all right, I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to get acclimated, and then we're going to do something different. So I did. I spent about a year, getting to know the shift life, working with all the new officers that I had. And a buddy of mine was looking for some help in his construction business. So I went to work for him. And I was like, well, I want to own a construction business. I don't want to work for anybody. So he was like, well, why don't you just come on board with me? And I was like, well, I don't like the way you're kind of doing some of these things. So we started a new one. That worked out great for a while. But then it was like, we had talked about doing, real estate flipping and stuff like that. So he knew that like this was just a means to an end for me. This was only like a stopgap. I wanted to learn as much about the construction phase of building as I could. That way I knew what I was talking about. I was pretty solid on like, this is a header, this is a stud, this is a joist, because of building construction for fires. But I wasn't solid on like, this is when you bring the electrician in, this is when you do drywall and HVC. So I wanted to learn a lot of the processes for that. So and he's another fireman from Northern Virginia.
Sweet.
Super chill, great mentor for me in that aspect. Extremely technically proficient for building and for like rescue operations. A big deal. So it was really cool to be surrounded by somebody who was like-minded with the fire department and like-minded with building construction.
Right.
And I knew, and we had talked about doing real estate investing together, and I was like, yeah, sure. But then I was like, I don't want partnerships. I don't like doing partnerships. I don't really want one. So I told him like, I can't do it. It's not going to be healthy down the road for us both. Right. If we do this now,
because I'm going to go. You have a great relationship already, and partnerships isn't really your style at this point, right? And so you're like, let's not affect that. Yep. Let's keep the awesome relationship and let's do our own thing and support each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and look, man, I called this dude the other day. I feel like a schmuck because we talked about doing these things together, and then I couldn't do it. But the type of guy he is, I called him the other day. I'm like, hey, I've got a project coming up. Do you want to do some work? He was like, just let me know and I'll help.
Yeah.
So awesome. Super gnarly dude. Love him.
Yeah.
The investing thing kind of came out just my brother talking to me like I was a retarded fifth grader. Like, why don't you do this? And it was like a spark. And then I just went down a rabbit hole. I would consider it analysis by paralysis by analysis, right? But I also knew that I wasn't in the position to fully dive in because, we were running recruit schools, hiring 20, 30 people every couple months, and officer development up there, and just everything with the fire department. So I couldn't commit 100% to what they needed and then commit 100% to what this wanted.
But you were still getting tons of information, digesting that, learning about construction. Were you going to meetups at all at this point? Like,
not at that point.
Getting pulled in by your brother to any of these?
Nope. The first one was Jim Ingersoll's,
the deal maker.
Yeah. And we haven't missed one yet since then.
What year was that? Like 2020 probably?
That was probably 21.
Okay.
It was right after COVID. I think it was his first one after he shut everything down.
Got it. Cool. So, I know, like, my father, for example, like, got introduced to this mindset of financial freedom, financial independence, investing, when he was 70. So I was never introduced to it until I got into real estate and learned about all this stuff, right? And it was like mind blowing to me that this stuff existed. But I couldn't imagine like my dad being 70 and having worked his entire life and then no retirement in the future to now learn about this. So I can imagine when Corey's telling you like, hey, this is a different way of thinking about this. You're like, oh my goodness, you know? And so you're getting all this information. What is your, you know, you do have some paralysis, but you're also making some moves. What does your first deal, your first actual deal look like intentional investment? What does that look like?
Listen to Pace Morby do his, you know, his calls, his live calls and all. And so I thought, well, I know everything about this now. My neighbor, we didn't live in a cheap neighborhood, you know, about 4,000 square foot houses. Mm-hmm. My neighbor put a for sale sign in his front yard. So I went over and talked to him. I'm like, I want to buy your house, you know, ego, fire department ego, all kinds of stuff. And he was like, okay. So we talked about it and talked about some opportunities for it. And like, I was like, oh, I got this. They were considering it. And I was like, this is crazy. Well, went back and talked to him again. They were like, nah, it's not, you know, we need more down payment. So, okay, well, I can't do it. But do you have anything else you might want to sell? And he was like, you know, no, this is it. And then I heard, you know, him and his wife were talking back and forth. And randomly through this conversation they were having, she said something about the Parham Road house. I remember writing it on my notepad. Mm-hmm. So probably about 45 minutes later, I said, well, what's the Parham Road house? Because the couple were retired. They were going to move to Florida or somewhere else. I said, well, what's the Parham Road house you guys mentioned? And he's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I said, well, you want to sell that? He's like, yeah, I think we should probably sell that. And I said, well, what are the details on it? And it's a condo. It's not a house. And he was like, oh, well, you know, it's I think it's 2 or 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, right over by J. Sargent Reynolds. And I said, all right, well, you're willing to sell it? Yeah. I said, for what? And he said, I think he said 80, 90. He was in the hundreds. And a couple days later, we went and looked at it and then went back over to him. I made him an offer, I think of like $90,000, and he took it. And, you know, we bought it with the tenant in it. Tenant was one of his daughters. He said, you're going to have to kick her out. I was like, well, he had 2 daughters. One of them wasn't paying. I said, well, you kick that one out and I'll leave this one in. And he said, okay. So he did all that, did all the dirty work, and she stayed there for about a year. I mean, paid rent, everything was fine. Mm-hmm. I think we paid, I lied. It's either 60 or 90. I can't remember the fine details. But yeah, it was, that was the first one.
Did you keep it as a rental?
Yeah, still got it.
When you got into real estate investing, like, were you focused on flipping and making that capital, or were you focused on the long term of like holding a rental? What was your like ultimate goal when you were getting in real estate investing?
A rental portfolio.
Rental. Yep. Is that because of like Corey's influence, like discussing how flipping is a job? I mean, you can make some money, but like it's a job versus the passive income and wanerational wealth if you do it correctly.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That and you know the Brandon Turner podcast.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Yeah.
And I wanted to build a rental portfolio. I wanted to keep everything I touched.
Right.
So we got that one.
Did you use like hard money, private money to buy it?
We just used a regular investment property loan. I didn't know anything about money yet.
Yeah.
As far as hard money lenders and all. I didn't know enough about seller financing.
Right.
I feel like I probably could have structured the deal with him had I known then some of what I know now. I feel like we probably could have had a different angle.
You probably would have bought both houses and used one as leverage and the other and stuff like that.
It's all kinds of crap. But yeah, I mean, it worked out great. And not long after that, I bought one from Frank Cava, and it was a duplex it was a duplex, and it had a garage with an apartment on the back.
Yeah.
And so I had seen a lot of fires kind of go south the way this was set up, a little kitchen, and so I was like, I don't want it as a duplex. We'll do it as a single family house. Already had a tenant in the back. He wanted to stay. I think he was at $450 or something. So we raised his rent up to $900. and he covered half the mortgage.
Yeah.
A little over half the mortgage, actually. And then we rehabbed the house and rented it. And then it was like the first couple of months was like, we just made how much money on this house?
Right. Yeah.
You know, for not doing anything.
Right.
So
yeah. Once you do the first deal or two, assuming they're successful, it's eye opening.
Yeah.
Because you come from, there's someone who says it where it's like the first chunk of money you make is so significant to your life that it's like, it's insane. It's hard to imagine. And then once you get past that chunk, it's sort of less significant as it goes forward.
Yeah.
But like the first deal or two or three that you do that are successful, it's insane what it does to your finances, to your confidence, or to how you think about money and stuff like that. It's just crazy to think about. So you kind of have this experience after this deal where you're like, wait a second, like we just did a really good deal. It worked out well, and this is what the outcome could be, even just holding rentals.
Yeah.
And then so when you go to continue to scale, I assume at some point you learn about, you know, the more conventional financing I should say creative financing. You're using hard money, private money. You're doing, didn't you do some sub 2 deals and seller finance deals? Are you learning these again from the podcast and books, or are you learning these largely through like meetups and events?
All of it.
All the above.
Yeah. Like I just submerged myself in this entire world of like the black market of how real estate moves.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and you know, and I've told people that there is a black market of how real estate moves, and if you want to make money in real estate, that's kind of where I feel like you need to be.
Right.
It's not talked about widely. You know, it's crazy to me growing up as, you know, through my adult life, just thinking, oh, that house is for sale, versus I wonder how much I can buy this house that's not for sale and what I can do with it. You know, and then even keeping it as a rental, like this house could make me X amount of money a month. So 10 of them could make this much, 20, right. You know. Yep. And then, you know, I remember when you and I went to lunch one day, I think I had like 3 or 4 properties, and you're like, you're getting to the point where they're going to start paying for themselves.
Right.
And then it's just going to snowball after that.
Right.
And it has. I mean, we don't have, I think we're at like 10, but we haven't put any money out.
Right.
And we've made good money. We've continued to do some flips, but we're going to continue to buy slow. You know, the dumpster business took up a lot of time,
right.
Stunted the real estate portfolio growth. But, you know, it's, when you look at everything, it's crazy the amount of effort that we do now, but the paycheck still comes in.
Right. How are you finding your deals, like the rentals that you're adding to your portfolio? Is it through referrals, or are you doing any kind of marketing, or?
No marketing.
Yeah.
So wholesalers or referrals.
Right. Yeah. And the wholesalers are just relationships that you met at meetups.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's the best way to do it if you can, especially if you're going like this slow and steady route. I mean, buying 10 houses that amount of time is not slow, but compared to the people who like want to do 10 deals a week, you know, it's different. It's a different game. I'm much more like the selective, slow and steady type to make sure you're doing it right. You're being smart. You're still building way more wealth than I think me and you could have ever imagined, like how we thought about money. Like I was never driven by money. I was driven by being passionate about what I could do or what impact I could make or what I could accomplish, for not necessarily what money was attached to that. Right. Yeah. And it sounds like you were very similar, where you had your purpose and your goals and your identity, but it didn't have anything to do with how much money you made as a firefighter. Yeah. Right. And then, so now that you're creating this wealth for your family, it's okay to do it, quote unquote, slow and steady, right? Because it's plenty, right? Like we're very happy with the outcome there. So, and you're building a dumpster business stuff, which we'll get into, but you have a lot of relationships. You have a great network around you, you and Corey both, and Allie, who was on this podcast previously. Just awesome people, awesome network relationship. You're getting a lot of your deals through referrals and wholesalers. You're doing some flips to retain some capital, and then you're holding as much as you possibly can to support the goal, the whole reason that you're in this game. Are you financing largely through private money now that you know that that's a source, or are you using your own cash, or what? Yeah,
so we use private money for almost everything now. We started with the hard money. We did the investor loans, 20% down. We've done the hard money loans where they eat you. It sucked at the time, What is a draw fee? I've never heard of this, because I didn't read the notes.
Right.
And you want how much for originating this loan? all those things. But now I can look back and I can say, I learned all those lessons instead of just watching somebody else go through it.
Right.
Which I always would prefer to do, even though it sucked a little. So it makes me appreciate some of the private money lenders that we do have that don't charge all that or
Right.
don't, want it. So yeah, we do a lot of private money now. We'll do some hard money if our private lenders are tapped out. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Have you done any DSCR loans?
Yeah,
Like
every
30-year?
rental that we have is DSCR.
Yeah, I got mine. A bunch of mine are refied. It went at the very low interest rate mark,
Yeah.
so they're like at 4%, 30 years,
Yeah.
locked in on DSCR loans.
Yeah.
And you are doing some wrap lending now.
Yeah.
Cool. When did you start doing that?
We sold a couple of houses and made some money. And it's always a conversation of, do you use your own money to do your
Right,
own
right.
projects, or do you lend out and borrow? I prefer to lend out our money and borrow. Like, there's
Yeah.
enough of the pie for everybody to eat.
Yep.
If we have capital that we need to deploy and we have a project coming up, then we'll use it for
Right.
ourselves. But if not, we'll try to send it back out and do. And we've got a couple friends with a lot of money and they want to invest it, so we take
Right.
it for them and make money with them.
There's good friends to have,
Yeah.
especially friends that don't know what to do with that money, and you can help them. You can give them a strong return, but they're
Yeah.
like, they need someone to spend it.
Yeah.
There is it still kind of exists, but there are some people that I'm surrounded by. They're like, I have X amount of money and we just need you to spend it. And I'm like, well, I'm focused on growing this business. And there's probably on a weekly basis, I'm like, dude, you are an idiot. Why are you not finding ways to spend their money?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, so that's great. And the thing is, with this mindset that we have now and this knowledge and these tools that we have that everyone really has access to, they just need a Corey in their life
Yep.
to step up and say, hey man, why don't you think this way?
Yeah.
Or like drop a book in front of you to change your mindset. I mean, it's available to just about everyone.
Yeah.
That it just allows you to think differently and see opportunity everywhere around you. And I think it's just an unbelievable thing, which is one reason I have this podcast, is I hope that like some random person will listen to it and be like, oh, there's some way to do this without coming from a multi-million-dollar generational wealth household, and you can start investing too. Almost all of the investors, not intentionally, just almost all the investors we have on this, on the Virginia Investor Podcast, come from nothing, like no money at all. And it's just like they have found out through whatever channel that like this is possible, and they're kind of confused about it, and they do some research and they're like, oh wait, and they do one accidentally and fall into it. And now they've done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of developments. Crazy. Speaking of crazy, you wanted to get into the dumpster business.
Yeah.
What's the name of your dumpster company?
RVA roll-offs.
Awesome. Why did you decide to start that?
So doing some of our rehabs, we'd have these dumpsters sitting on our projects and we need it dumped. And, we'd go a week with the big name companies, just, we'll get to it. We'll be there tomorrow. And tomorrow comes 7 times and it's still not dumped. But yet, they take the money out of our account.
Right.
So very frustrating. A weird way that this whole thing started, Christina and I had talked about it for a while, and we were at a bar one night with friends, and I said, I think I want to do a dumpster business.
Every good idea originates at a bar.
And I wasn't ready. I was talking about long term, and my buddy was like, really? I said, yeah, eventually, and this is why. And he's like, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. And so this went on, and a couple weeks, he called me, he said, hey, that dumpster thing you want, that's a good idea. I'll do it with you. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Again, didn't want a partnership.
Right.
And these are good friends of ours. And so now it's this awkwardness of I should have never said anything to anybody else. But when I get excited about something, like, especially after a few bourbons. And so I'm like, man, now I don't want a partnership, but I trust this dude. Like, I give him whatever he wants. He can borrow whatever he wants. I kicked the can down the road for months, and finally he calls me. He's like, listen, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, no, you ain't.
Yeah.
So we'll do it together. So I have a little bit of a competitive bone. And so that's what was, what really kicked me, because I was like, he's not going to do this without me doing it. And so we ended up doing it. And the idea was, we'll use them for our projects. His wife was starting to flip a house. So we'll use them for our projects. Anything we have left over, we'll rent out. And what it turned into was either they were all on our projects or they were all rented out and we couldn't use them for our projects. And then it turned into we didn't have any available for our projects. So we bought 10 more. Mm-hmm. And then his job was to drive and I would do all the administrative stuff, the business stuff. And it got busy. He was still working a full-time job. He had 2 young kids. So he couldn't leave a full-time job with benefits and everything for this startup that had nothing really. And so it just kind of grew from there. And ultimately, he was like, I need to go protect my family. I gotta work. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, that's fine. So when we split from the business, or he split from the business, I bought 10 more dumpsters. And then a couple months later, I bought another business of dumpsters in like the eastern area. We just kept losing inventory, like just continuously out. And I don't do any marketing. So I was like, it's going to slow down here because we're gonna tap out with the market that we have. Nope, didn't.
So it was needed. Like dumpsters. Other investors have the same issues that you have, and they want a responsive team. Yeah.
So we just continued buying more dumpsters and buying more dumpsters and buy another truck. And I hired a guy full time. He ended up having a little hiccup with the truck, put it into a big tree.
Small hiccup.
And I tell you, man, it was one of those things where it hurt so bad. I called a buddy of mine who had mentioned, I'd love to have a dumpster business. And I said, if you want it, I'll sell it to you right now. He was like, seriously? I said, yeah, seriously. If you hear the terms and if this is what we talked about, if you want it, it's yours. And he was like, all right, let me call my lender. And I told Christina, I said, I think I just sold the business. She was like, you are a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
She said, you get one rainy day, one kick in the gut, and you're going to give up.
Yeah.
She said, when you see signs in those dumpsters all over the city, you are going to regret it every time you do it.
100%.
And I was like, gosh, this really sucks.
Yeah. That's why businesses don't make it past 5 years, because it's so freaking brutal.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get out of it.
Oh, man.
It's so easy. And there's something I heard recently is like, never make a decision in the dark. So like when you're feeling some kind of way, like that's not the time to make a decision, right? Or talk to anyone about it. Yeah. So, but it's good. So she kind of talked you off the ledge a little bit, and then you hung on to it.
I mean, this was over. Her and I talked about it over. It was probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I talked about it with my son. I talked about it with my daughter. Like we all discussed it, and I was like, I'm done. This is not. I got the fire department. I got the real estate thing. I can grow the real estate. This is taking up too much time. And I think it was my daughter or my son. One of them was like, Dad, you're just looking for excuses. So make a decision. And then, Christina heard that. And so then she just kept on about it. And it made sense. Like it was a good business. It's a good setup. And because I'd had a rough patch, like I was just going to walk away.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, how many times in a house has something not gone right? How many times in a fire has something not gone right? How many, I've never just turned around and walked away.
Right.
But yet here I was getting ready to do that. And so I decided I called the guy. I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So I bought a big truck and some 30-yard dumpsters. And, I've been adding inventory every month since.
That's sweet. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a tough business. I know people who own similar companies, and I hear some of like the inner workings and problems and of inventory and where it goes and timing and drivers and trucks and all the capital that's needed. Like it's not an easy business to be in.
Yeah.
What's next for you? The next 3 years? I mean, or do you see expanding the dumpster business, expanding your rental portfolio, and sticking with the fire department? Anything else you're trying to get into?
Yeah, the rental portfolio is, for the most part, I wouldn't call it passive, but it's more hands off. Mm-hmm. My daughter does a lot of the work with it. Christina does a lot of work with it. The dumpster business, I've got a full-time guys, a full-time driver. It keeps him busy. I mean, luckily he's in salary, so when we're really busy, he's working, and then when we're not, he gets a break. I've got a division of the dumpster business that does the clean outs and the demos, and they have been busier than I ever thought they would have been.
Yeah.
So now, I finally have time to do things like this, which is horrible for me because now I'm looking for the next thing.
Right.
And I got a couple things that a couple feelers out, and we're going to continue to grow the rental portfolio. We're constantly buying more dumpsters, but I got a few things in the waste industry, and then a few things that don't have anything to do with either of those. So,
how do you help other first responders understand how to build wealth? Like with your experience that you have, no one can relate to firemen better than you. How can you help them understand and see the light on how they can build wealth and help their families?
That's a hard topic because fire departments now, when I started the fire department making $30,000, I thought I was making a lot of money.
Right.
Now they're starting out like 70s. And so when you're 19 years old coming out of high school and you get hired by a fire department, you're making $70,000, they're always buying new trucks.
Right.
And they're always buying, Shelby Court Mustang. They're doing all these things. And, I try to be the old guy that's like, don't do that crap.
Right.
But I know that they want that kind of stuff. So just in general conversation, I'll say, listen, let's just say you've got 50 grand sitting around somewhere and you buy a duplex, or you use that to buy one house or whatever, and you make 20 grand. Now you'll have 70 grand and you use that money and you'll make this. And then, when you're 40 years old, you can retire from the fire department and you have all of this, which ultimately is, we're heavily talking about retirement now. I'm supposed to wait until I'm 50, but I think we're going to wait for another 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years, and then I'll leave. It's so hard to have those conversations with these guys who are just like I was, and all they want to do is go on fires.
Right.
All they want to do is run calls. And they're like, I'm not worried about retiring at 40.
Right.
I never worried about retirement until probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
And that's only because I really wanted to get into investing, and now I got a grandchild on the way. I want to live and not have to go to work every shift. And
Right.
the challenge isn't as much getting them to learn about it as much as it is getting them to open up
Right.
their mind. And they're going to have to burn out of the I just want to go on fires phase,
Right.
because that's huge.
Yeah. Family and kids and other responsibilities.
Not even a mention on their mind,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess if there's no like real pain point, you can take a horse to water, but can't make it drink, right? So if there's not a big pain point, I guess it's good to give them the option to know that it's there. Like, hey, there's a different way to think about money, and here's a list of books you can read, but I can't make you read it, and I can't make you interested in this. But here's at least the tools you need to see this.
Yeah, there are guys up there. Most of the people up there know what I do that I flip and do rehabs and all. Majority, if not all of them, know. The younger guys who just came out of school probably don't, but majority of the people know, because a lot of the guys will ask me all the time, are you still doing this, or what are you doing? And then, I'll take them to the whiteboard and I'll show them, if you had, there's a 23, 24-year-old, he's got $100K sitting in the bank just from working overtime. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to take your money, but I can put you in contact and you can make a crap ton of money with that $100K.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? And we went to the whiteboard and I showed him.
That's awesome.
And some of these guys, there are a few guys up there that I've done some deals with. The rule is that I won't do any deals with anybody that is on my shift, because I'm a shift commander. So whatever happens, I don't want them to hold it against me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll, somebody on my shift wants to do a deal, I'll put them in touch with somebody else. And they get it, but like, I can't tell you how many of these guys have 100 grand, 75 grand. They're 22 years old.
Yeah.
So
if I was 22 with 100 grand, there wouldn't be 100 grand in the bank.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I was pretty good with money younger. I guess it's never really like been important to me to have flashy stuff, but yeah, I couldn't imagine having that kind of money at that age. And then even like if you did have the mindset to like, man, what happened if I did some wrap lending, or what happened if I did this or did that? Man, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Just an incredible way to start.
Yep.
How can people find you?
So Facebook, Kyle Murphy. RVA Roll-Offs, I have an account there.
Do you have a website for RVA
I have a
rolls?
website for RVA, yeah. It's RVA Roll-Offs and Rentals.com.
Okay.
And those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me. RVA Roll-Offs at Gmail is my email. That's the easiest way to get in touch with that one.
Awesome. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. So for the intro, before I forget, I left my kids off of the intro, and so I do need to give credit where credit's due. Both of my kids are super, super awesome kids. My daughter is 22. She's pregnant with her first kid. They got married in December. She wants to be like us and be done having kids, and by the time she's 25, so she can be like us when she's 40.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And live her life.
Yeah.
My son is a Marine, stationed in Okinawa right now. The cool thing about my kids is over the last 10 years or so, we wore out the game cash flow. So they know everything that we're talking about. My daughter and her husband bought a house, a rehab house, right after they got married.
Awesome.
And they rehabbed it. They got seller finance on it at a super chill rate and refinanced it to theirs. Now they have a ton of equity in it, and they're looking at selling it so we can buy a big compound. Mm-hmm. My son is he's in a couple of rental properties with us. He's funded a bunch of our deals. Even both of them have even done just closing costs for us, just to put them in the deals and see. You give me $5,000, I give you $6,000 or whatever,
right,
in a few weeks or whatnot. So, there's not many kids that are 17 years old and loaning to buy houses.
Right.
There's not many kids that are 17 years old buying houses, but there's even fewer that are loaning money to buy houses. Right. And so the fact that they get it, like we started playing cash flow the other night, and my daughter was like, this, I can make this much money, and I think I had a deal, and she was like, or she had a deal, and she was like, if I borrow this much from you, can you, I'll borrow it from you at 8%, and then I'll pay you this much every month. So, my kids get it, and that's all that I could ask for now, because now they've got the knowledge to create whatever lifestyle that they want now.
Right.
And that's the coolest part. So I can't forget that. I don't remember how much I wrote about Christina in there, but if it wasn't for her being by my side or kicking me in the ass, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at in anything. Yeah. So my family, growing up, trying to keep me on the rails as much as possible was probably the hardest job that they ever didn't bargain for, but I truly appreciate it. So.
Yeah, man. I think we all appreciate it too. What you just explained is like a different version of generational wealth, in my opinion, right? Like, you're not just like passing on a ton of money and fortune to your kids yet. You're passing on information so they can build it themselves, and they're already starting to. That's phenomenal, man. Your whole story is just incredible. Especially like starting out in your early teens, like having that incident and then allowing that to change your life for the better, whether you knew it at the time or not. Like, to be involved in all the decades of service and the impact you've made on communities, and then the impact you're making on your family and the real estate community now, man, it's incredible. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story and your journey. And I'm really happy and congratulate you on your success that you've seen in real estate investing, the fire crew and with your family. It's awesome, man. I think it's good. I'm glad we finally got you on here to share your story, man.
Yeah, it's been fun.